Welcome to the Focal Insights Podcast Founder Hour edition, hosted by co-founder Joe Pawlak. Joe has been in the e-commerce industry for over 25 years. He grew and bootstrapped his own startup to a successful exit. Founder Hour episodes go behind the scenes to learn how some of the best e-commerce brands were founded, grown, and operated straight from the founders themselves. Founder Hour is brought to you by Focal Software, a new generation ERP and operation suite for e-commerce brands and third-party marketplace sellers. Focal was built with SMB brands and marketplace sellers in mind to help them grow profitably. Now let's welcome our host, Joe Pawlak.
Hello and welcome to the Focal E-commerce Insights Podcast, where we chat with e-commerce entrepreneurs about business selling online and how to overcome challenges for success. Joining us today is Diana Stobo. Diana is the founder of Truth Products and The Retreat, Costa Rica. Diana's background includes a bachelor's degree in communications and visual arts from the University of California, San Diego, an honorary degree in culinary science from the School of Hotel and Restaurant Management at Cornell University, award-winning author who has written 15 books, motivational speaker, pioneer of the raw food movement, created many health and wellness businesses, one of them reaching $1 million in revenue during the first year of operations, founded Truth Bar in 2015, and also in 2015, opened a wellness lifestyle hotel called The Retreat, Costa Rica, that has since been named the #1 spa in Central and South America and top 10 spas in the world by Condé Nast Traveler magazine. Diana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right.
I love when you read a bio. Who is that girl?
Yes.
Nice.
You've had a lot going on in the last few years.
And I'm only 12. It's so weird.
We'll talk about that in just a minute. And the way I like to start is to talk about how entrepreneurs, business owners, oftentimes they know they want to own a business or start a business, and they can see the destination, but they don't always see the path. And the ones that think they know the path are often in for some big surprises, because it's very hard to say what direction you're going to go in, but you always keep the focus on that end destination. And last time we spoke, you mentioned some health issues that I think were pretty impactful and woven into those above accomplishments that I mentioned and the timeline. So why don't you talk a little bit about that path, different paths, and how you got from getting started to where you are today?
Oh, God, it seems like centuries ago, I have to tell you, that because really when you're set on a path, it's like you just keep going and you don't even know how you got there or why you got there. But when I look back, everything was aligned perfectly. I was very ill, so I had to figure out how to heal myself. And when I was figuring out how to heal myself, I learned a lot, underground kind of information that wasn't something you could look on Google. And I started spreading that information, and then I got so many opportunities. I remember when Whole Foods said, "Hey, come talk at my thing." And next thing, they were helping me get a book into their stores, and I was writing more information. Then I started touring the country, speaking about how we could clean our bodies out. Next thing, I started making nut milk bags because I was learning how to make nut milks. And I ended up selling them on Amazon, doing extremely well, until one day I had a glitch in my Amazon account and literally went from $10,000 a day to $10,000 a year in sales. It was ridiculous. You make one false move on Amazon and you are in the gutter. Then I ended up making, what's that?
That's a big hit to your revenue.
A hit to your revenue. Or this one time I had an extreme flow with an online business I was doing that was detoxes. And one of my partners in Truth Bar, actually, he took a loan out under my name as a co-signer. And because he didn't pay it back, they closed my account and I didn't know it. So all my revenue was going nowhere. And so they closed my stream online. It was crazy. I've been through quite a few things. But when that stuff happens, I pivoted because I realized maybe that wasn't the direction I was supposed to go. Around this time, I was hired by NBC Universal to write a diet for this Tabata. Actually, it was a infomercial, and I was doing TV and infomercials. I skipped over about 5 years right there. And they said it was so successful the food program that I put together, they said, would you put together a supplement package for these people that are working out? And so I put together Truth Bar, which the whole package was 15 products, and they were all for gut health. And this is way ahead of our time. This is when protein bars were out and nobody knew anything about gut health. And so they were like, okay, well, we don't know what we're doing here, but this stuff tastes delicious and we got to do it. So I ended up partnering with this guy in London, and one thing happened, and next thing, the entire contract fell apart. And I ended up with 15 products that I had created. So ended up getting partners and started Truth Products. Meanwhile, at the same time, I had already written 15 books. I was doing online courses. I had sold, it's funny, I know this is about e-commerce, and I got to tell you, I am just the worst at email marketing, e-commerce, figuring all that stuff out. I was struggling, but I was doing so well. It was weird. I was literally in it going, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I was doing it. And I had a list of 150,000 people, and I was just selling all this stuff online. I actually created a package of nut milk that you could pour into a blender with it's just nuts and vanilla and cacao and all that. And so you can make chocolate milks and stuff like that. People loved it. Couldn't sell it in retail because the price goes up too high. So I sold it online, did wonderful. Decided I didn't want to be in that kind of business. Simultaneously, I opened the retreat center, and that was a fluke. That was something that I had dreamt about 12 years earlier when I was going through the Thailand with a Thai monk, hiking through the hills of Mae Hong Son, going, gosh, he goes, wow, you're really incredible. This guy was like just throwing me all this. He goes, you're so strong. Would you ever want to open a retreat center with me? And I was like, I never even thought about that. And then he starts labeling all these things and telling me how great I was and how I'd be perfect for it. So he planted a seed inside me. And it wasn't until 12 years later that I came across a property and started opening a retreat center. So I have all these things happening and I'm juggling all of them, trying to figure out which one's going to work. So the retreat center ended up taking off, and Truth Bar started taking off as well. There was a mishap with some of the partners in Truth Bar, and then an angel investor came in and he took it, and I continued to work on it. And then he passed away right before COVID hit. And right before COVID hit, we didn't know what was going to happen next. So then COVID hit and all the sales and everything went crazy, mayhem. We should have done better, but instead we didn't do well in retail. We had too much retail and not enough online business. So the retail wasn't buying. People weren't going to the stores. So it struggled. So they were going to get rid of Truth Bar, and I fought 18 months to buy it back. And then I got it back. And the struggle continued, because what had happened during those 18 months in COVID years is that e-commerce just went crazy, everything. And so everything that wasn't on Amazon or on Shopify was, because people were living at home and they were just ordering online. And so we had fallen behind. So I tried to play catch up, and we're still trying to play catch up. But when you lose market space in e-commerce, you just have to pay to play, and you got to pay big to play.
Yeah, especially in the competitive markets, which there is a lot of competition for your type of product.
A lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know that you asked a different question, but hopefully you got an idea of my 10 years of climbing through the trenches.
I did. I have another question though. The concept of going outside of traditional Western diet and medicine was pretty unheard of back then. Would you agree?
It was.
And so I'm just curious if you were approaching that from an entrepreneurial standpoint at all, thinking, hey, there's a huge need for this and there's a demand for it, or were you just going on a gut that this is what I want to do and we'll see if anybody wants it?
I have to be very clear. Nothing was ever planned for me. I am a very courageous woman. I am a seer. I can predict what's going to happen. Everything I've ever said is going to happen has happened in the market, what people wanted and demanded. It doesn't surprise me. Even before I even started businesses, I'm like, I could tell you something's in style. And they're like, no, it's not. And sure enough, 6 months later, it is the hottest thing around. It's just something that I've been really good at. But also as a health and wellness expert, I knew there was a need. I just knew that we had to teach. So there was a huge learning curve. I had to teach. I was the first one. I was one of the pioneers of raw food movement, And it wasn't even about raw food so much. It was about getting people to start eating healthy again. But you have to make a movement in order to get people to even shift slightly. And then there was organic, and then it was not drinking so much cow's milk, and then it was about not eating so much bread. And there's just so many things. I was right there all along, knowing that was what was needed. And gut health was really on the forefront. I remember my first show I did with this bar, I had to teach people what probiotics were. They had no idea. Now it's the hottest thing around, right? Everybody's taking probiotics. No one knew what a probiotic was.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because somewhere along the line, it was a long time ago, maybe 30 years ago, somebody said to me, the only thing that should be drinking cow's milk is baby cows.
Yeah.
That kind of resonated with me. I never drank milk again.
Well, but even that movement, science is always changing. There is nothing fixed in science. That's why it's science, right? We're constantly learning and shifting, and our bodies change. Our physiology is not the same as when we were cavemen. We're totally different. And so cow's milk is not a bad thing. The problem is how it's processed and manufactured and before it's given to us. That's what the problem is. So in some ways, yes, no one should be drinking cow's milk unless they're baby cow, unless you're drinking it straight from the cow itself.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a movement to outlaw raw milk too, that's a whole different topic.
Well, it has been for a long time. And
Yeah.
again, but I don't know, I'm excited about the new health initiatives that are coming, hopefully coming into the future, because I've been touting it for the last 20 years. And we know that our system is flawed and our food system is flawed. So it'd be really great to hopefully get that back on track.
Yeah, yeah, we can hope, definitely. Okay, so during that whole process, a lot of times people learn about themselves, they make mistakes. You touched on a few. What are some of the challenges that you faced in e-commerce? So you had some stumbles with Amazon and you were a little bit behind in it, but it sounded like some of the time you were on top of it and were doing real well, and some not. So talk a little bit about the e-commerce component and what you've learned and what worked for you and what didn't work.
First of all, I'm perfect. I don't make mistakes.
Okay, I'll move on to the next question.
No, it's funny. I'm joking, but at the same time, I'm thinking sometimes is it a mistake? Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. That's again, you got to go, okay, when you feel like you're pushing a rock uphill, maybe that's not what you're supposed to be doing. No, when I started out the gate with Amazon, I wasn't even paying. I wasn't even paying to play. Amazon was young. And I had the premier nut milk bag, a strainer that you'd blend your nut milks, then pour it through the bag. It was $9.99. And I had all the visuals up and it was doing well. And I had my cousin who would help me out, and she was a techie. So she was in there and she'd move every day. I'm like, what are you doing? She said, I'm in Amazon. She was in Amazon every single day, moving things around, changing this, following algorithm. I don't even know what she was doing. And I didn't realize how beneficial that was and how on top of the game and how techie you have to be and how you have to follow the algorithms in order to keep on top of your game. And when she left my company, I didn't do it because I'm not a techie, and it all fell apart. Didn't even pay, did not even advertise. It was just how she moved things around and what she did. And it was brilliant. And of course, then I had to hire people to help me out. And then they did more visuals, and it cost me more money for this and more money for that. And then more marketing money, and then more advertising money, and then content money. And then I was the last to the game on Facebook. I was the last to get on Instagram. And you saw in the beginning, anybody who started on Instagram in the beginning has got 5 million followers. All of its little piddlies behind trying to catch up are 5,000. Woo! Because the algorithm changed, because it became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And Amazon is a beast. But where I did do is I did a lot of podcasts. I did a lot of talks. I had at the time a very thriving YouTube channel. So I did a lot of video, and I taught people. And when you teach people to their full senses, when you really reach them on a place where they need you and you're helping them, they listen. And so I gained a lot of followers, and that was in my email list. And so I would just every few days just keep them updated. I never sold them anything, but they bought because they liked what I had to say. They felt connected, and they still feel connected. And I love that. Actually, it's my favorite part of my job, is connecting to people who are trying to make it get ahead of the game. But still to this day, that's what's needed, is people need to feel connected in order to purchase. And I think that's the biggest part of e-commerce. Problem is, everybody's doing it. You don't know the difference between AI or a marketing company, or who's really selling you something straight up and who's being honest. And so how many times do you wake up in the morning and literally delete 150 emails before you even read the good ones? You're like, oh my God.
A lot.
There, delete. I mean, I spend half my coffee drinking emails.
Deleting.
So e-commerce has gotten so flooded. And I'll tell you, I'm in a place right now where with complete frustration, because Truth Bar, because it started over twice, is young again. It's a young company. It doesn't have a lot of money. There's not a lot of margin in these bars. These are really high quality bars, and we're selling them at pennies. We make pennies, and those pennies don't pay for advertising. They don't pay for marketing. They don't pay for, we're as lean as we can get. And every time I spend $40, that's 40 bars or more. And
Gotta sell a lot of bars.
it's hard to keep up. And if you don't have big money behind you to spend on advertising, which is what you need to spend on in order to get ahead, then you're just going to fall by the wayside. And
yeah, that's very true. And for anyone listening, I'll go back to one of the points that you made. If you look at, say, Google as a search mechanism, and it has its algorithms and it has its advertising, Amazon is a lot like that. It's just a smaller ecosystem, but it acts very much like that. And when you talk about paid ads and the complexity of that and the management of your content, Amazon and Google are motivated to get you in there, but not necessarily for you to know what you're doing. So the easy part is getting into that ecosystem. And then the hard part is optimizing it so that you're profitable and that you don't make big mistakes, especially when you can make mistakes that you don't even know you made. And this is a machine that runs 24/7. So mistakes are magnified over time. And so the hard part is just managing that and staying on top of it. And a lot of people, yeah, they don't have the time to do it. And they don't even know they did it wrong.
No, you literally have to spend at least 8 hours a day inside the system trying to figure out what's going on, because they change it on you. And honestly, you get your ROAS up to maybe 3.1 or something, but you're spending on the shipping, the Amazon ads spend, you've got your cost of goods. And so there's no EBITDA. And you're like, okay, I'm just making wheels spin at this point.
Yeah, you're just moving things around the world.
I'm moving product and money, but none of it's coming in.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. So you really have to have your product has to be at least a 5+. If you're paying $1 for it, you got to sell it for 5. But when you're on Amazon, you got to sell it for 10.
Yeah.
And it's just Shopify too, though. Shopify's not too far off, because you got the guy taking the money, who's doing the credit card bills, the PayPals and all that. And they got their percentage, and then you got your marketing, and then you got your email. It just goes on. And then of course, shipping now with gas prices so high, to be competitive, you have to give free shipping. And when you give free shipping, that comes out of your bottom line, and then you're literally making nothing.
And free returns.
And lately the people have been crazy on just going to their credit card and canceling their payments. It's been like an epidemic. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Not a good harbinger.
No, I don't know why all of a sudden that's happening. We see people just for no reason at all. So they don't even follow the policies of your shipping. Say it's a food good. If you are buying a box and you've never tried it before, you don't like it. How many times have you bought something at the store that you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy a box of that, and you open it up and you eat a couple cookies and you're like, oh, these are terrible. And you're like, oh shoot, I just wasted $4 on that. When you call it a day, right? No, when you're online, they just call the credit card company and they cancel payment.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a different business problem. Contesting that and that whole process
it's not worth the time, the administration.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
So in your experience, because it sounds like you've had various starts and stops with the e-commerce, did you find that it was best to hire people to do it within your business, or have you worked with agencies that solved a lot of these problems for you, or a combination?
I have never found an agency that cares about my business the way I do. And they usually cost a lot of money. And the reason I end up falling for them is because they overpromise and underdeliver, and I just don't have the bandwidth for it. Sadly, I think the best way to do it is in-house. And sometimes you think about it, some of these people are what, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. And then you got advertising. Why don't you just hire someone for 100 grand and have them sit next to you? It's almost the same amount on annual salary. I
Yeah.
don't know. I wish I had a magic wand and could say that I had perfected this, but my most successful time was when I was doing it myself.
Yeah, and we talked about COVID and how everything exploded online. What also exploded with that was the number of agencies that came out to take advantage of it.
Yep.
And a
Yep.
lot of them are not good. So you do have to find a company that cares about your business. Nobody's going to care as much as you do, but they have to care a lot about it. And oftentimes the solution there is a rev share program or something where they're invested, they're your partner, and they're working side by side with you for that. But that is a challenge.
I've even tried that. I've even tried that, and still, because there's no skin in the game for them. At the end of the day, they're like, oh, if it's successful, great. I'll get some equity out of this. That's what I was doing. But
Yeah,
if you don't, oh, I'm still getting paid at least a minimal or at least a good amount of money.
yeah, that is a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch gears. I think we're up to speed where you're at currently. And let's talk a little bit about the future, because the way I like to think about our customers or listeners is that many of them are not running their own business. They're at a job, they want to. And to give you an idea, or you probably have an idea, but the total market right now for online sales is about $6 trillion. And in the next couple of years, it's going to be probably over $8 trillion, which is staggering, a staggering increase over 18, 24 months. So what are your thoughts on the future of selling as it relates to that? And what plans do you have as far as expanding, if any, marketplaces or expanding your reach, distribution, things like that for growth, if the plan is growth? I'm not sure where you're at in that.
The plan was always to grow it to a certain level. This has never been my happy place doing e-commerce. Like I said, I've had a lot of interaction with it. To expand it to a certain place where somebody who's very good at it would want to take it on, because it is the future. And even if you ever go to have an exit, your direct to consumer is super important. And I'm in retail, but the retail is another money grab. They take a bite out of everything till there's nothing but paper left. So it's an interesting business. I don't know.
Yeah. And you mentioned if you're looking to exit these stores, these marketplace stores are actually a property that is a business property that raises enterprise value. So that's always a concern too, is if you're looking to do that, then if somebody looks at your business and says, why don't you have a store with X
Yeah.
revenue or X number of subscriptions for your products?
No, exactly. It's exactly. And well, subscriptions is one thing, extra online subscriptions, and then you've got your stores. I don't know. I'm doing a big all out push in January. I'm going to raise the bar and put some money towards the ads, perfect the ads, get them really strong, try to appeal again to the people on a deep level, because as someone who's healed herself through food, I understand how it works. This is a food product. And also, I'm going to be on QVC, which is a big network, and they've got several millions of people who follow them. And I think once that shows up, it's gonna give me an idea of if we're going to make it or not. And sometimes product, it's so interesting, especially in food products. It's never about the product. It's about your ability to market it. And I had this brilliant genius marketing guy told me what once. He goes, I don't care about your product. I just care about how I can market it. And I thought, God, people are that easy, huh? He said, so all this integrity that I have in my product doesn't matter. He goes, no, it really doesn't. He goes, you can give me pardon my language, a crappy product, and I'll still be able to market it and I'll make money. So don't bother. And I was like,
But all that integrity helps.
you know what? I think it's like karma. Karma knows where you live. I believe that in the end of the day, it all comes back in a different way. Maybe not the way you planned, but it does come back to you somehow. We do online business for the retreat Costa Rica. You have to, right? You're competitive in other markets. We're a hotel. How do you find the hotel? You have to find the hotel by seeing ads or watching video or Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be out there. It has to show up. And if you're my demographic, it's going to show up in your feed, and the algorithm's going to show up for you, and you're going to book it. How do I compete with the guy next door, or the guy over here? At the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, right? You take a bite of my bar, you're like, this is the best bar I've ever tasted. Now I see why people buy it, and I see why they pay the price for it, because it's the best bar. How do I tell people that? How do I tell you that this is the best bar when the guy who's got a crap product is saying the same thing? Who are you going to believe? You're only going to believe it when you try it for yourself.
Yeah, he's
right?
saying the less thing and selling it for less money.
And that's the problem, is people will pay for that product 73 cents. Yours is $2.73. Why is yours better? I can't tell you, because I don't know what his ingredients are. I don't know what he's got in there. I don't know how it affects your body. I don't know if he's selling you sawdust. He probably is for 73 cents. And that's the difference. It's the same thing with my hotel. People come to the hotel, they're like, wow, this is better than I thought. This is the best place. I have a return rate of 73%. People extend their stay. 35% of people extend their stay while they're there. They don't want to leave. That's all I need to know. I just got to get them there. It's first-time customer. And it's the same thing with Truth Bar. Once they taste it, once they see that they're not constipated anymore, they have no gas, they have no problems, they're like, I'm going to continue buying this. I'm worth this. I'm going to pay the money for these high quality ingredients. So you have to buy in a first-time customer. And that is the trick with e-commerce, is you have to make sure that your first impression is the best impression.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the repeat business is so important, especially in hotels and travel, because it's a lot harder to get that person the first time than it is the third time. Like you said, they're really a repeat buyer when they extend their stay. And that's quite a bit.
Exactly. And to have people come back 3 or 4 times a year, obviously they're getting value. There's something there. And that's with, again, any product, right? I'm brand specific. Like when I shop, I am brand specific. I like a certain kind of cup. I like a certain kind of food. I like a certain kind of top. And someone tries to sell me something that's not as good or cheaper, I'll try it. But if it doesn't match up to my brand, I'm going back to my brand. And so I think that's another thing, is you're creating a brand. And if you have consistency and it's good, and if you're a quality buyer, you will go back. And it's really interesting. Let's talk about Amazon for a second. You go on there and let's say, I don't know why my hair, I can see my hair now. Let's say barrettes. Okay. What is the difference between A, B, C, D, E barrettes? They're all the same. They all look, but this one's $12. This one's $16. This one's $14.99. They all look the same. Different companies, different parts of China they brought it in from.
Mm-hmm.
It always say top pick is the cheapest one. But I don't know. Are they the same?
Yeah, these platforms tend to inherently or innately commoditize items based on price. So that's where, like you said, building your brand, your reputation, your reviews, the content, the quality of the content and how it's presented all becomes so important.
Exactly. No, exactly. And there you build a trust with your consumers. They know that you're going to back it. And that's really important as well. There's so many levels, and especially if you want to stay in the game long enough to actually make a living out of it.
Yeah, and brand loyalty is a tough one. There's whole industries built on how to get more of that, especially the travel industry.
Yeah,
Good at that.
yeah. That's why that's my biggest, I'm so proud of what I've done, because I've done things differently. And at the retreat, I've done things differently. I've stuck to my guns. I'm extremely high integrity. I've given more than I've asked for. And like I said, karma knows your front door, right? They know exactly where you live. And I think, knock on wood, I've had an amazing experience with that. And believe me, in the beginning, just like Truth Bar, I thought it was going to fail. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go bankrupt. This is just too much. But I put my heart, soul, and my money where my mouth was, and it's working. You have to really stick with it if it's something you believe in. And one thing that never gets talked about with things like online businesses is passion. It is true that if you truly believe in your product, if you truly believe in what you're doing, then it will be successful.
Yeah, that's very true. And I looked at your retreat too online in the images, and it's beautiful. And it's great to hear that it's doing well, and congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's not just that it's doing well. So people go there. There was a woman, I just got back from there, and there was a woman who, she's one of our guest instructors, and her husband had recently passed away. And she's, hi, do you remember we talked a few months ago? I'm your yoga instructor. And I'm, oh, hi, so nice to see you. And she goes, I just have to tell you, from the second I put my feet on the ground, she started crying. She goes, this is a place where people come to heal. She goes, I cannot tell you. I have 1,000 stories, and I've only been here 2 weeks. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I get that every day when I'm there. Thank you for building this. Thank you. I hope that this, sorry if I'm going to be a little bit emotional here, but I know that we're getting products shipped in from all over the world into our Amazon. And it's a competition of buy it for 10 cents, sell it for $10, and see who can sit there and get the mass marketing on there, or who can do it on Shopify, or who can sell it to the, but I hope people start looking at things that are more quality driven and less of it. We don't have to have 9,000 widgets in our house. We only need to have 1 or 2 good ones. And I think that people need to start looking at that, because you don't even know what you're buying. You're just thinking you're getting a good deal because someone said it was a good deal, or you're thinking you're getting a good supplement. Like, for example, I sell supplements, right? My supplements are earthen. They're from the earth. They're literally, there's no probiotic that I have that's white. My probiotics are dirt. They are literally from the ground. They're SBOs. Top. You won't see those in the marketplace because they're not manufactured in a lab. They're actually real earthen products. When you look at that, you look at this, you're like, this is what a probiotic looks like. It's white. I go, no, that's a manufactured one. This is what a real probiotic looks like. And this one's $58, but so is this one. So know the difference and start educating yourself so that there's not 70,000 probiotics on the market to choose from. That's just all crap. Find the right brand. And I think that'll lower the craziness on the e-commerce right now, because everybody's out to make a buck selling crap.
Yeah, that's true. I do think there's room for both, or like any marketplace, a whole spectrum of quality, because some people do want maybe supplements aren't the best example, but there are many products that people are okay with a certain
Vacuum
level of quality.
cleaners. We'll go to vacuum cleaners. There's $700 vacuum cleaners, and there's $49 vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
You're right. I can't afford a $700 vacuum cleaner, but I need to vacuum. So I'm going to buy a $49 one. Totally agree with that.
So there's a place for it, but it is tough when you talk about things being commoditized and people are moving so fast. They're looking for top pick or lowest price or whatever. And that is a challenge to get in front of them somehow and say, hey, here, I'm right here. It's better. Trust me. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Because you don't have somebody like at a brick and mortar or somebody having a conversation. It's difficult.
Yeah. It is interesting because I'm in health, there is a higher level of quality needs. Whereas you're right, if it's a widget, it's a totally different story for sure.
Yeah, but when you talk about health, if there's anything that you should be looking at as an investment, what more could that's it, right? Is your time here.
Right.
And if you want to extend it or make it pleasurable while you're doing it, living,
right, exactly.
invest in it. Yeah. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground and through a lot of those questions. There were a lot of tips in there, but do you have any for anybody that wants to, and it doesn't have to be e-commerce, but if you can think of any, but business in general, you mentioned having a belief and a passion, and I think you hear that a lot, knowing that you're going to succeed even when you had some doubts. So those are good tips for people getting into any business or e-commerce. Hang in there, I think.
I will say one thing. Anybody who has the idea of going into business, no tax laws and no laws, because that is something that will get you in every crevice of your business. That's the hardest part for me, is the administration and understanding the laws and the tax laws, because I get notifications all the time, and I'm paying for things I'm like, I didn't even know that I had to pay for. And again, like I said, every dollar is a bar. And so every time I
Yeah,
see a bill
and
comes in,
any nutrition stuff is even more complicated than just a
no,
weight.
it's just even owning a business,
Yeah.
even starting a business, having an LLC, being licensed and to do business. There's a lot of administration that goes on and a lot of tax laws that are hidden until you start. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, my profits are going straight to taxes. I've got nothing left.
So
And
have a team, hire professionals for the things that are not
I,
worth it.
I highly suggest getting consultation before to find out, know your bottom line. You need to know your numbers and you need to know every single number. You need to know every quarter of a cent because it adds up over time. And next thing you know, you're buried in numbers. So you've got to be really clear. I have this marketing guy right now. He's, oh, you got to ROAS. So this, I said, yeah, but you're selling it at 40% off. We're not making any money. We're actually losing every time there's a sale. Between free shipping and 40% off, we've lost money. Yeah, but you're getting first-time buyers. You're getting first-time buyers. This is a lifetime of buyers. I'm like, if they come back, but there's no money in the bank. There is no cash flow when you're selling at a loss. So you have to understand how that works. And as from somebody who came out of culinary school and visual arts, you can imagine that I got a tough lesson in economics.
Yeah, and what you just described, I like to say to people that it's like the old joke that the operation was a success, but the patient died. We're selling all this stuff. We're doing so many sales. Yeah, but the company's going to go out of business if we keep doing it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And the only thing that really matters is your EBITDA. And if you don't have good EBITDA, you don't have a functioning business. And that's an important thing to understand. And if you don't know that going in, look it up, read about it, find out how to make that work. Because otherwise you're going to invest a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you're going to end up closing.
Yeah. Good advice. How about e-commerce specific? Anything you can think of there for tips?
It's interesting. If I had the time, like I know what to do, and I would probably do more of what I'm doing right now, talking to you and using these clips to get myself back into my videos. In fact, I'm going to put this up on my YouTube. I'm going to start talking about things like this again because people have lost connection to me because I got so buried. So before you go and spend advertising money, start talking, do social media, get on YouTube, start using your character and your personality because your personality is going to sell it. Then you can put money behind it. Because if you put money behind it and you don't have good content, it's just you're advertising amongst millions of great content creators. And how are you going to be seen? So your e-commerce needs a personality. It needs to stand out in the sea. So get that personality, figure out who you are and how you're going to be different.
Yes. Very good advice. And since you mentioned that you feel that people have lost contact with you to some degree, as we wrap up, why don't you tell everyone where they can find more about you and how they can reconnect with you?
Good question. It's fun. I have 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I haven't done a video in 7 years. So I'm starting to get myself out there again, and I'm sending them to YouTube and of course, Instagram, Diana Stobo, Instagram, The Retreat Costa Rica, Facebook, all those things as well, and Truth Bar. So I'm everywhere, and the same thing for the websites, theretreatcostarica.com, truthbar.com, dianastobo.com. And people reach out all the time, and I love to hear from people. I love to hear their stories, their thoughts, their questions. And I'm sadly at this age a plethora of knowledge, and it's useless unless you ask me about it.
Well, that's what we're doing here. You're sharing with people. And I appreciate it very much, you sharing, and I hope everyone listening appreciates it and learns something from it. So thank you for jumping on today.
My pleasure.
And to everyone else listening, thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Focal Insights Podcast. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted of new episodes. See you next time.